valley beyond. Feels like everyone's got a different name for it, but they're all bound for the same destination.
Doesn't matter what you call it, I know we're going to find there. An old friend was foolish enough to show me.
Hey everybody, it's Charlie. Have you ever seen anything so full of splendor? This is going to be my Westworld episode 2 video. Obviously, spoiler warning if you haven't seen the episode yet. If you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. I'm doing Westworld all season long. But we learned about William's greatest mistake. We had a reunion. The episode was titled Reunion. We had reunions with a number of characters we haven't seen since season 1. Most notably, young William and Logan. We actually saw a bunch of different timelines too. There was 30 years ago, before Delos invested in the company. Then there was a little bit after the events of season 1. Then there's the 2 weeks ago timeline when they're still starting the beginning of the revolt. So I'll just try to remind everyone where we are in the timeline as we work through top 10 WTF and the secret of William's greatest mistake. But number 10, we get our first Have You Ever Seen Anything So Full of Splendor from probably one of the youngest versions of Dolores that we've seen so far. This is from well before Arnold's son Charlie had died. This is before Delos had invested in the company, which we learned is called the Argos Initiative. That's the name of the startup that Ford and Arnold called their company when they first started building the parks. But they were bleeding money, so they needed outside investors, so that's where Delos comes in. But because of this big influx of cash, they're now really rich people, so that's why Arnold is saying, life has been very good to me, I have all this money, I'm building this house, I'm moving my family here. So Dolores extracts the promise from him, promise that you'll bring me back here, and he's like, oh yeah, of course I'll bring you back here. Kind of making you wonder if we're going to end the season on a moment like this in present day, with the current version of Dolores making it out of the park back to this location and saying, have you ever seen anything so full of splendor? Again, bringing that line back around. So just remember how lines of dialogue recur. There were at least 3 different times in the episode where different people, or different versions of people, said, have you ever seen anything so full of splendor? Including different versions of Dolores and different versions of the Man in Black, or William, young William, I should say. But number 9, back in present day, Dolores wakes Teddy up. He gets super woke. It's like showing someone their entire browser history. Like, oh, you thought that we cleared this. No, this is everything that's happened to you. Why would you do this to me? He starts freaking out. My favorite thing about this scene, too, is the look on Dolores' face while she's watching this happen. Like, she's just completely casual about it. Like, okay, we're just gonna let Teddy do his thing here, freak out a little bit. But just remember that most of what happened in present day on the show this week was from that 2 weeks ago timeline. So like when I say 2 weeks ago Dolores, I'm talking about Dolores in present day right after the start of the revolt. So just remember that there are 2 different timelines in present day. There's stuff that happens at the very end of the season, which is when Bernard is standing on the shore, oh my god, I killed them all. That's 2 weeks into the future. 2 weeks into the past is right here where the revolt starts. Dolores starts going around recruiting people like the Confederados. So it'll get a little crazy, but I think within each episode they try to limit it to at least 3 different timelines. But number 8, Logan's special presentation, we get to see young William and Logan before the events of season 1. So this is happening right after we saw Arnold with this version of Dolores. This is almost the furthest back we've gone in the past. I think the earliest time point we've seen on the TV show is when Dolores is still all skeleton looking, getting off the table. Because remember, Dolores is the very first host that they ever built. She's the prototype for everything that came after, which is why she's so important. She says she's seen everything. She's been around for all of this. So the whole deal here is they're just trying to get the Delos company to invest in the park, the Argos Initiative, and you basically see the party where everybody is a host. I love the reveal, like just seeing Logan completely freak out. But the minute that Angela walked in with this new character who's also part of the Ghost Nation storyline, we'll meet more of him later this season, but he's a pretty important character. When she first walked in with him, I knew immediately that this was going to be some big twist where they're going to play a joke on him. But the funny thing here is the way they transition. You even see Clementine playing the piano. So there are actually a lot of characters from present day that recur in this party scene. Like the lead Confederado character that Dolores is talking to in present day is this character right here during the flashbacks. Angela is the funniest because she's sort of like this Jesus figure with the crown of thorns on her head, but she seems kind of like a zombie, just obeying Dolores' every wish, just mowing people down whenever she tells them. But in the past, it seems like she almost has more agency, so it'll be interesting to see what's going on with Angela in present day, if she's just like this Terminator bot that Dolores controls. But also, I almost forgot, there's the surprise Anthony Hopkins cameo, voiceover only, so it's kind of out of focus and it's in the background, but it's new dialogue he recorded for the young version of Ford. And even though it was Gus Fring doing Ford later in the episode in the town of Pariah, that was actually a really cool twist. This just reminds you that we're going to be seeing Ford throughout this season through these other hosts as he sort of pushes William along. You're meant to play this game alone, William, so that even though Ford might be dead, he's speaking and guiding things from beyond the grave. So it'll be interesting to see where else Ford pops up this season. So he's still a character on the show, even though Anthony Hopkins himself is not physically on the show anymore. Very cool. But number 7, dead isn't what it used to be, Lawrence. So we have our reunion between Lawrence and the Man in Black. The whole intro scene is just about the different power dynamic between those two characters. Previously, the Man in Black had total control over everything in their relationship, but now it's a little more equal, like he needs Lawrence's help to save himself. So think about all the abuse that the Man in Black visited on Lawrence last season. He hung him up, drained him, then used that fluid to patch up Teddy so that Teddy could take him the rest of the way when he was still trying to find the maze. It's sort of a twist on the change in the power dynamic and the relationship between Maeve and Sizemore this season. Whereas like it used to be Sizemore in control of everything, now Maeve is the one in control and Sizemore is sort of just pushed around by her will. But number 6, probably one of the coolest new scenes that we've gotten with a new character. We finally meet James Delos, and young William, after the events of season 1, explains to him why the park is of value to the company. And it has absolutely nothing to do with the broadening of the human experience or developing AI. It's all about data mining and just using user data within the park that they collect to better market products in the real world to these people. So like young William tells him, people in here are totally honest about the choices that they make. That gives us better data about what they really want, so the Delos company has a much easier time selling people the right goods, meaning that they make much more money on all the other business that they do. Just a big tech company collecting user data, then turning that around, selling it to companies so that they can better market products to their users based on the choices that they make when they're in the park or say on their website in the case of Facebook. Let me know if anybody else thought that when he talked about using the park for data mining and marketing purposes. That just screamed Facebook to me, just because there's been all this Facebook privacy and security issues going on lately. I love the James Delos character too. He talks about how he doesn't care about the future. I'm not going to be here in 20 years. So I'll talk about that in a second too, because there was another scene later where he talks about a plan that's not quite ready yet. The whole idea being that these corporate people are very short-sighted. They only care about short-term profits. They're not thinking about the evolution of the human race, how the hosts might become the new dominant life form on the planet. Logan had a scene later too that sort of tipped me off on that. Like that's probably what he's talking about when he says that they lit the match themselves. We'll get to that in a second, but number 5, Dolores versus Maeve. I love the standoff that they have here because they're the two most powerful hosts in the park right now, mostly because Maeve is the most self-aware and has been enhanced the most. Remember, she's one of the only hosts that has had the little technology that they use to keep them in the parks removed. There's like a fail-safe that all the hosts have that won't allow them to leave or will self-destruct them if they try to leave. That's why last season she had her body burned so that when they rebuilt her, they could rebuild her without that specific failsafe device. But this is just to let you know that Maeve is going to be on a separate path, completely separate storyline, although I'm expecting everyone to converge at this special place that they tease at the end of the episode, the place that William regrets the most. Number 4, Dolores and the Confederados. This was great. This is her just trying to win the army that she needs to fight those 800 people that they teased earlier in the episode. So you immediately realize the value of her keeping that tech alive with them so that he can resurrect the hosts on Will. So she just proves to them what the truth is. Like the same thing that Teddy got, only she has to kill them first for them to be able to believe it, just because they're programmed to be assholes like that. The retirement party. This is actually a really important idea. This is the point at which William takes control as CEO of the Delos Corporation. We find that he has a little daughter, so this is further after the events of season 1. Dolores comes back. He actually flips a little bit. I love the look on his face when he sees her there. He's like, oh shit, my secret girlfriend is getting ready to meet my family. This is going to be awkward. His wife actually also seems really cold towards him. Remember, we learned that in the future, his wife ends up killing herself because she can't stand living with the Man in Black. She's so afraid of him. There are a couple of teases that they give here too. James Delos says that he's stepping down and not necessarily by choice, as if the board asked him to step down. He implies that he's sick. Maybe it has something to do with him dying. William says that the plan isn't quite ready yet, but he doesn't look that old, so it just sounds like he has a degenerative condition that they're using the technology of the park to try and fix. And that has something to do with this special data facility that they're all going towards, the weapon that Dolores is talking about. But we also get to check in with Logan, who's just getting super high by himself out in the dark. Remember, this is Logan after the events of season 1, so he's lost whatever personal battle he's had with William. So Logan's left to rot off in the distance, but he tells Dolores that the whole human race is starting to burn and Delos lit the match. That probably has something to do with them backing the park and the host becoming the dominant life form. Like, it's all building towards this revolt that's happening in present day. But Dolores also has that line of dialogue again. Have you ever seen anything so full of splendor? But then number 3, back in present day, the 2 weeks ago timeline, we have Man in Black versus Ford from Beyond the Grave through Gus Fring from Breaking Bad in the town of Pariah. This is so fun. It gets super meta too, because he's like, Lawrence, you used to be this character 30 years ago, El Lazo. And he gives him that big long speech about the elephants that doesn't want to fight back because it learned at a young age that it shouldn't resist. And it's all tied up in the idea that Dolores keeps saying that not everyone is destined for this promised land, the valley beyond that's their endpoint for the season. So there are hosts within the park that don't want to fight their programming. So it sounds like Dolores is weeding those out. That's who Gus Fring is. He's one of those people that doesn't want to fight. And then you get that awesome twist where Ford from Beyond the Grave speaks through these characters and makes them all shoot themselves so that William can't use them. But number 2, bigger reveal. Man in Black reveals that he built this place and we're going towards his greatest mistake. And he refers to it as a place, but then we get the twist later where Dolores talks about it as a weapon. You get a flashback scene after the retirement party with young William and Dolores where he sort of explains what his grand plan is, takes Dolores to see this special place that we're all going towards at the end of the season and says, have you ever seen anything so full of splendor? But there's sort of a sinister twist to it. So if you're wondering what's going on here, it sounds like this has something to do with the data mining that they were talking about earlier in the episode. So remember, there's a secret reason why Delos cares about the park, and it's mostly sold on the idea of data mining. Dolores says that she's going to use it as a weapon against the humans, and it sounds like she's saying that she's going to use their browser history against them. Remember, this all goes back into data mining and marketing, like really insidious stuff. And it's not like Future World where they're literally replacing people from the real world. It's literally holding people hostage to their data. Now, there might be something bigger going on here because you have this side plot going on with James Delos, who seems like he might want to somehow cheat death using the technology of the park. So there might be some grander stuff going on, but we have seen a couple scenes in this red room with a bunch of what looks like data processors and just really crazy stuff going on. It might have something to do with that, but just let me know in the comments below, what do you think this special place that William took Dolores is, that Dolores in present day says is a weapon she's going to use against people? What'll happen is I'll post my trailer video in the morning. There'll be a bunch more Marvel Infinity War stuff happening too. But click here for all my Infinity War Easter eggs and click here for my episode 1 video. Thank you so much for watching. Everybody stay awesome. I'll see you guys tonight.